get this back up. Okay, so here in the room we've got Billy from Ballarat, Michael from EDFL, we've got Jock from Geelong, we've got Pete Carey from Eastern, and we've got Sharon down from Bendigo. So we're in a nice little boardroom at Marvel. Thanks to these guys for making the time to come out to the city and have a face-to-face session. And for everyone online, thanks for taking some time out. It's a busy time of the year where we're trying to get lots done just before we all go on our Christmas break. And so I do appreciate the time you're spending with us today. Before we get started, so I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are gathered on today, a land on which we play our great game of Australian football. I acknowledge elders both past, present and emerging, and pay our respects to the Aboriginal connection to land, sea and spirit. And I would like to acknowledge Kiana McIntosh, a student from Warrawa College and a Larrakia woman, for her design representing her grandfather and her language, which is going to be part of the 2022 Sir Doug Nicol round umpire match day shirts. So that's very excellent design by Kiana there, and that'll be part of the design with another one. So the agenda today, it's mainly focused on just going through some of the programs and initiatives that I've hopefully tried to prepare some steps and for everyone to try and start implementing as soon as they can. I know it's getting towards the end of the year, but hopefully this will be handy for everyone involved moving into early next year to get their season started. A couple little updates towards the end after I go through the community strategy. And then hopefully we'll have some time for anyone who's got any general discussions or any questions. Before we get started, so I know not everyone's online, but some welcomes to our community umpiring team. So at AFL Outer East, we've got John Howarth, who is the new head of umpiring. He's not with us today, but he's started mid-November. He will be working 3 days a week with Outer East. Yarra Junior Football League, we've got Sean Dowling, who's football operations. He's going to have a big input in the umpiring space at Yarra, with Dave Hannon being a part-time head of umpiring. And at VAFA, at the moment, we've got Sam Confate, who is the GM of football and umpiring. I'm not sure if many of you are aware, but Matt Dervin has moved on. As we can see, 2 farewells from our team. Matty Dervin's moved on to Cricket Victoria. So he's already started in that role. And Sam Wood, who is Director of Umpiring at AFL Goulburn Murray, he's actually been lucky enough to receive a job in the State League umpiring department as, I believe, the development coach coordinator for 2022. So 2 farewells from our team. And on the line, we've got Craig Herman, who is the talent coordinator for the Northeast Academy Zone, the talent zone. So we're going to get the all the talent people involved throughout these workshops over the next 12 months as well, so they can keep up to date as things are happening in the umpiring space. We'll get straight into it. So the community umpiring development strategy, most of this, everyone will be well aware of what's happened in the past. There's not a lot to change, but we've got a couple of things. The strategy itself has not changed from when Ando released this initially in 2020 and then again at the start of this year. So the 4 pillars haven't changed in grow, train, transition and retain. And how they're built doesn't change at all. What has changed a little bit, so the development strategy, this is an amended one specific for Victoria. So there's a national one that Ando would have sent around earlier this year. All of the green tiles are part of Ando's national strategy, and then the blue tiles are very specific for Victoria. So there's a few programs in here that are very specific to what we're doing and what we've got access to throughout the year. So I'm not going to run through all of these because not all of them are relevant right now in this time of the year and leading into next year. I'll just go through the ones that I think will be relevant to everyone over the summer and into the start of next season. Also, this is just an updated pathway. Some of the feedback I've received over the last couple of months is the pathway isn't probably as well known as I think it is. So this will now be included in that strategy document moving forward. So we've got 3 sort of steps. So you've got your community competitions where you've got your 3 current accreditation levels. So introductory, certification, development accreditation, advanced, and still pushing on with the end of next year, moving into 2023, the intro to high performance accreditation. Can everyone see the slideshow? Just got a message to say that you can't see it.
Yeah, I can't. I've gone in and out a couple of times. I can't see it. I thought it was just me.
What about now?
Yeah, that's better.
Sorry about that. I'll just quickly go back. So
John Donegan still can't see it.
it's all been recorded, so I'll just have to push on with how it is.
Keep going.
So the pillars, they haven't changed from 2020. The strategy, so there's the overall strategy. The green is the national programs, the blue is the Victorian programs, and then here's the pathway. So community competitions with your 3 moving to 4 accreditation steps. Then you move into the state league. We've got your development squad, your senior squad, your AFL umpiring academy and AFLW, and then you move into the AFL system, which is AFL and AFLW as well. All right, so first program is the Come and Try, or starting from 2023, if anyone would like to. It's also got some branding behind this program now called First Bounce. So there's the First Bounce logo, which you can see the top right-hand corner. So if you're doing any Come and Try sessions from an AFL perspective, you can brand it First Bounce to help with that resourcing and that promotion to make it a little bit more broader and more knowledgeable. Come and Try session, I think we're all pretty well aware of what these are. They're just, not nice little hour and a half session, some fun activities that are related to each of your disciplines, field boundary goal, link that up with some sort of barbecue or feed, and try and recruit some new umpires on the day. Most umpire clubs do these at some point throughout the summer. There's a couple of clubs that do them pre-Christmas and some clubs do them after Christmas. But again, this is nothing new, but we are branding it First Bounce for anyone that does want to utilise that. There is a PDF that I'll send around that's been developed by AFL Media that can be edited to your umpire club with all your details, and it's just a standard umpire AFL document that you can create as a flyer. So that'll be shared around. You can use the logo as well. Any questions online?
Is there a program that we follow with that, or is it just?
No, there's no program. You can just do whatever you like. So I know most clubs will do like rotations, boundary goal, rotation. Some groups have done, sort of coaching as well. They've got the facilities for it. Something that I've done in the past with schools that works well is having all your participants come together playing a football game, because that's what most kids are aware of, and then you just rotate your umpires through, actually get them umpiring a match sim like. So there's no set program or outline.
Talo, just within the branding of that, I'm supposed this is a goal umpire bias question, but I'm assuming because they get a taste of everything, it's sort of clearer in the explanation behind the branding of First Bounce. It's like, hey, have a taste of all disciplines. So people who might not feel comfortable, bouncing straight off can like start in goals or have a run on the boundary. So there's clarity around that, I'm assuming.
When it comes to advertising, it's promoting all disciplines. It's not. I know It says First Bounce. It's not just field umpiring. It is definitely all disciplines.
Cool.
So include all that information whenever you're promoting all this.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
School umpiring course. So not a lot has changed with this. There are a few little differences. So hopefully most of you are aware. So Al's actually putting all of the curriculum content in the new LMS that'll be accessible by everyone here, and also umpires if they do want to get access to that content. We're also working with the IT team in the background to have a special portal for teachers to have access to that next year, so that teachers can specifically run the umpire course as it's been developed rather than doing their own thing. So all that will be made available to everyone. Al is still working in the background on facilitator training at the moment. So obviously Al will be moving to SA for 2023. So I'm working with her on how we'll do the facilitator training for umpires or anyone who wants to take up, running these courses in 2023. If there's any of your facilitators that have done the training this year, feel free to follow up with them whether they would like to run any of these programs or at schools for you next year. We won't be making them do the facilitator training again, but they'll have access to all the content through the LMS. As Al starts to finalise any details for any new people that have flagged that they would like to be facilitators, or you'd like them to facilitate courses, Al will call for all that information at some point early next year, and we'll get them trained up however we sort that session out. Okay, moving on to the School Umpire Academy. So this has sort of been around for a little while, but it's not broadly known. So I'm going to push it a little bit more this year. So this is an AFL Victoria funded program. It's almost a satellite training venue for students directly after school. So Camberwell Grammar have done this really well for 15 odd years. They have 15 to 20 students trained straight after school once a week for 10 weeks across terms 2 and 3, or I think they spread theirs out a little bit in term 1, term 2 and 3. And they are put into community football from round 1. It's not a train for 5 or 6 sessions, then we'll see if you're in football, umpiring community games. The premise of those students participating is that they are, when round 1 starts, they are appointed to games in their local competition. So this is offered to everyone. So I know Nashi did a couple of programs in his region at Loyola Secondary as one venue. There's a few little changes though just for this. So we'll still provide funding. Funding is going to change a little bit only because we need to make sure that the funding is actually being utilised properly and covering a successful program. So we'll provide, AFL Vic will provide $250 straight up to help with resourcing a coach or resources or whatever. So as soon as your program starts, we'll cover the $250 to start with, and then you'll get the second half of your $500, the second $250, after some requirements have been met. So once the 10 sessions are being completed, the participant list is passed on to us just so we can check that students are registering and being appointed to games. So those students will need to register in Officials HQ, and that's for the introductory course. That's not for appointments for the Metro groups. It's just for the learning modules. They need to complete the intro course, and then they need to be appointed to a minimum of 1 game. And for the amount of students that some of these academies have, a recruitment rate needs to be met. So if there's less than 10 students, 90% students need to be umpiring community football, 11 to 20, 80%, and then for 20 plus students, 70% of students need to be recruited and umpiring community football throughout the year. Are there any questions with the School Academy program? Oh, excellent. All right, we'll keep moving. Next, the junior club engagement. I've been harping on about this, so I won't go too much into this, but we'll be pushing this. What have tried to do just for today is how to implement. So firstly, again, promoting to clubs, attending club president meetings, contacting presidents of identified clubs. So I think I've shared at some point this year the list of all your football clubs and their teams and their affiliated umpires. Through Officials HQ, we'll be able to track that again in 2023. So you've got your clubs you can contact, conducting an information session with the club, whether that's just with the committee. I think that's how a few clubs have sort of asked you go to the committee first before you go to the broader club. But, you're doing an info session to the committee, going through the benefits, and then you take that same session to the teams from under 12s through to their highest level, explaining what the benefits are of umpiring. Run a little come and try session at the club for any of those players that are interested across those age groups. Next part is getting a person to be that club ambassador or that representative at the club to run this program for you. So this is not designed for you to be doing all the work. It's designed that you can build the relationship and then have someone else run this program. So whether it's a parent of a child of a child that plays there, so a parent who umpires, or even just another umpire within your club who is looking for those leadership and coaching opportunities, this is a really easy way to get them involved, where they're coaching younger kids who are probably going to start off doing under 10s and 11s football. So it's not that real competitive football that they need to be nailing, hard tackles and holding the balls and high tackles, that it can be quite confronting to new umpires. And then you work with the club and you recognise them at the end of the year. Again, if there's anyone that wants help with doing all this, this whole year I've just started to get my head around it properly. It's taken me 12 months to really understand it and be confident in how this works. And I'm going to be working closely with YJFL in 2023 to help them get a lot of their clubs on board. So if anyone wants any assistance with any of this, please reach out to myself. You've got Jock as well, who had a successful program at Ocean Grove as well. So Jock's been involved firsthand with getting this up and running. Any questions from a club engagement? One thing I just will highlight is, I thought I changed it wrong. I changed it on the wrong slide, but we're actually going to be calling it club engagement next year. The reason being is that, especially in country and regional Vic, a lot of competitions actually run their juniors and seniors on the one day. So it makes it a bit harder to just focus on the juniors. So to make it inclusive for everyone, it's just club engagement. It means that if there's clubs further out in Victoria that want to target more of the senior clubs that have juniors on the same morning, then they can. It's not specific to juniors, but obviously juniors is where your biggest cohort is, and you'll get the most years out of any recruits. Okay, moving on. Diversity Academies is just a bit of an update or just a reminder that these are available. So if there's anyone who has a multicultural community in their region who they want to link up with, we're here to help. So I know Chelsea and myself are working with VAFA and Fitzroy Football Club and an African community this year to try and get it up and running. We hit some roadblocks throughout the year, but that we're still here to help. We can help with funding of a coach. We can help source some training gear for any umpires that are coming through a diversity group. So this is just a bit of a reminder that if you've got anything that you know of that you'd like to try and implement, or people or groups you'd work with, we're here to help with that. We can help with funding or resources. So if there's any questions around any diversity academies, I think the implementation is very similar to the club engagement. Just building that report firstly, making contact with someone. These multicultural communities, they actually, the ones that have done this in the past, they love the whole employment aspect of it. The skills that these young people get out of umpiring are transferable into employment after high school, especially. So it helps with their community, and that they absolutely love that employment and that skills aspect. One key thing is a training location, so that can be difficult, especially if the community is a little bit further away from your normal training location. So trying to find a football club who is willing to help is really helps. So we had VAFA and Fitzroy Football Club, nowhere near Elstonwick Park, but you had a football club who was willing to host that group for training before their senior teams trained on a Tuesday or a Thursday night, to make sure that they were catering for that group. Again, finding someone from your own umpire club who would like to take on that coaching role, and we'll help fund that position as well. So it's not an additional cost to your own budgets. And then again, that last point. So we're here to help resources, funding, and linking in with any football clubs or places to train. So we're here for all that assistance. Okay, the academy. So this is probably going to take the most time. I could talk about this all day, but I won't try and stay too long. But I'm going to go through as much as I can with this, because I am hoping that I can implement a few changes next year, depending on how everything goes. So firstly, I've had this slide before. So
One sec, Talbot.
Yep.
That heading's changed to V-line. Is that now a new partnership?
Yes, so we had that confirmed just before COVID hit, that V-Line were going to be supporting this program. So 2023, we'll be running with the V-Line Community Umpire Talent Academy. Obviously, that links into the V-Line Cup at the end of the entire program. We were trying to work through how that would look during the year, because obviously the big involvement is with the NAB League, which is a bit different. But V-Line were happy with how everything was going during the year with NAB, and they were happy with the umpires wearing the NAB club gear, with the premise that V-Line Cup is that's when they're all branded and logoed V-Line. But they're happy with it to be called the V-Line Community Umpire Talent Academy for the entire season, though. Yeah, good pickup. So the reason this hasn't changed, so we're trying to make this process for umpires coming through to the next level a lot easier for the umpire, for the state league, and for yourselves in terms of knowing who's going where or who's not going where. I know this year's been a bit drawn out, unfortunately, but that's the premise. The program overview. So not much has changed here. A couple of little things. So if I start at the top, going around clockwise, so aspiring young umpires, that hasn't changed. Recommendation of 15 to 23, but again, if you've got other umpires outside that age bracket who you feel are still wanting and still aspiring to make that next step, and you think they've got the potential, then definitely we can include them. We've got umpires that are above the age of 23 involved. Skills and welfare focus hasn't changed. The talent opportunities hasn't changed. The one minor change with that. So I know this year, state league home and away appointments were made sort of just ad hoc, whereas 2022, they'll be very consistent. Now, at the moment, it looks like it will mainly be regional games in the NAB girls and NAB boys that will be utilising academy umpires, but I'm still working with trying to get some metro opportunities, because the whole point of this academy was to make sure that metro and regional Victoria umpires have the same opportunities. So state league will be something that will be happening more often and more consistently, and we'll have more advanced notice, because it won't just be week to week, oh, we're short, can you help? It'll be, we're actually scheduling academy umpires in these rounds in these games. So that'll be a lot more consistent. No trial process, that's not changing. Just throughout your groups, we do want to start identifying any multicultural or Indigenous umpires. So firstly, as a first step, just so we can link them in with any existing multicultural Indigenous programs. For Indigenous umpires, we've got Josh James, who's running his Indigenous program. So if we identify any Indigenous umpires in the academy, we can slot them straight in as well. If there's any multicultural umpires from different backgrounds, we can see if there's any other multicultural events or carnivals or programs that we could get them involved with as well. Field boundary and goal setup hasn't changed, 6 to 10 umpires. Do want to start trying to include a few more females. With the female research project that Vic Rawlings spoke about at the National Conference, one of the recommendations is looking into a potential female pathway. So we want to start helping with that. So we do want to try to start working towards those 2 females per discipline. One of the original discussion points a couple of years ago when we implemented this was, you know, some umpires may be missing out by making sure we include X amount of females. Whereas, so what we're going to do this year is we're going to have the 10, 10, and 6 for field boundary and goal. But if you need a couple extra spots to make sure that we're including some females throughout the program, then we're willing to work with that and extend those list sizes to make sure we can still cater for additional females to be part of the program. They'll still be included in the female mentorship program. Starting in 2022, every state's going to have their own female mentorship program. So Libby Tuvey, again, will run the Victorian one. There'll be national online sessions, which will be run by Al, and then Libby will have her own face-to-face and her own potential online sessions for those females as well. So that's going to be expanded a little bit. The format hasn't really changed much. There are a few little changes. So we've still got our 4 talent zones. We've still got each of our academies nominating the 10, 10, and 6, with the additional 2 female umpires if needed. The academy staff, so academy manager and a talent coordinator, hasn't changed. The match day coaches hasn't changed. The PDP program will run. That's going to change a little bit, and I'll run through that shortly. The skills session potentially may change, and I've left it as it is from 2021. So that's the two academies coming together to one venue in February, facilitated by AFL umpires from all disciplines as the skills day. I'm hoping I can try and do something different. I'll explain that again. NAB practice matches. We've also got the under 16s, under 17s girls carnival in January. Then we've got, so the left-hand middle row, the orange. So what we're going to be trying to implement and trial next year is a subgroup called the Accelerator squad. This is going to match the same terminology and format and setup at all 3 levels. So the State League and the AFL already have an Accelerator squad. So we're going to do the same. A couple of things we're going to propose, and I'll go through it a little bit later in more detail, and I'd like to get feedback on this. But this is more just an idea and to get feedback first before we go ahead with this. But I'll go through that at the end of this. Home and away season, observations done by the matchday coaches, and also the talent coordinators as well. They're going to help out a little bit. Capture the assessment details. We'll invite umpires to the V-Line Cup in September, where they'll be watched by the State League coaches again. And hopefully in 2022, that whole process from September through to where we are now will be condensed, and it'll be sorted by sort of the end of October rather than waiting to the start of December. So the format's going to be pretty similar next year. Just some feedback. I won't go through this. I'll send it all out early next week. But I asked for feedback from umpires. It was pretty positive overall. Probably the key points I do want to highlight. So 50% of the feedback was from field umpires. So we really want to make sure we try and engage the boundary and goal umpires a lot more with sessions. The skills day. Really positive overall. There was one negative response from a Ballarat umpire. Sorry, Billy, but left no feedback. So don't know what the issue there was, but great response overall from everyone else. Here's some comments. I won't go through them. I'll send them through. You can just read them. And then the PD session feedback. So for some reason, sorry, Michael, but the Calder group, ordinary feedback about the online sessions. Most of the feedback otherwise was pretty good. There are just a couple of little areas where they were down a little bit. And again, I've included some comments that I'll send around for everyone to look at. And some overall comments. Just a summary of the changes. So identifying of those Indigenous and multicultural umpires. The AFL Skills Day, I'll mention this now. So what I'm hoping to do, some of the feedback was umpires want to try and meet, they want to be involved with all the academies. So I am working with the Yarra Council and the State League to try and obtain Vic Park for a full day for each discipline. So all umpires come to Vic Park. They'll come to the training location of the VFL umpires, where most of these umpires are hoping to get to eventually. They'll do outdoor sessions, indoor coaching sessions, all in the one day with AFL umpires as one big group, rather than doing 6 scattered sessions around the state. So that's one change that I am hoping I can get over the line. But if we can't get that, we'll just revert back to the 2 academies combining up for the 1 session in different regions. Online induction sessions. So again, feedback from umpires was that a lot of people felt like the academy program wasn't not advertised, but the rationale behind it and the reasoning behind things wasn't explained well enough. So I'm going to run a specific induction session online for all umpires to be involved in, to go through what's happening, what the plan is over the year, what the opportunities are, what the process is at the end of the year. So that way, from day one, it's hopefully extremely clear to everyone what's going to be happening.
Joe,
yeah.
In that induction, do you reckon you could talk about the pay issue? I guess the fact that they don't get paid, a lot of them still keep asking.
During the pre-season? Yep.
Yeah,
yes, I can go through that.
And just explain the rationale and it's a development opportunity and all that.
Yep, I'll definitely. Just for those online, if you didn't hear that, so Billy just mentioned to talk about the pre-season component where we're involved. We're asking and trying to get umpires involved with the NAB League programs without any pay for any of those pre-season sessions. So I'll definitely go through that. The PD sessions will be moved to a Monday night next year, so it doesn't clash with training and other things that are happening throughout the year. Better connection with the talent department. So we've already started that relationship with the talent department around dates for 2022, and I've already started to send those out to people. A year-long engagement plan. So one of the bits of feedback was that there were periods where there was no information sent out, and it's quite a few umpires actually wanted just random bits of information sent out. So I'll have an engagement plan for each month where I'll have just certain little updates, even if they're not too major, but just to keep people involved. And then the last one is that Accelerator squad, which I'll talk more info shortly. The alignments haven't changed. There's nothing different there. Same with the Metro alignments. The talent zones, we're still keeping the same. Nothing's changed there. Here are people involved at the moment. Now this, I've got a couple of changes I haven't updated in the last 24 hours. So the Western Academy, Mark Westgarth is the Academy Manager. Geelong, David Harris, and GWV, Billy Mitchell, and the Talent Coordinator, Steve Keating. The Central Zone, so Michael Wilcox for the Calder Academy. Russell Davidson at the moment is going to be looking after the Oakley Academy while Matt Dervin's replacement is still sorted. Sharon McCall for the Bendigo Pioneers and Roger Legrand, the Talent Coordinator. Northeast Talent Zone, so Cam Nash for the Northern, John Howarth for Eastern. But that's obviously working with Pete Carey at Eastern Football League as well, because it's two competitions in the one area. And then Michael Bouquet at Murray, Talent Coordinator Craig Herman for Southeast, Academy Manager Cam Watts at the moment, Darren Holt for Dandenong, Gippsland. I'll still be running that myself, and Pete Marshall, the talent coordinator for that zone. NAB League affiliation. So we're back up and running with this again. The talent department have ticked this all off. They're happy for the umpires to be involved with everything again. So they're really happy with all this. Now, I do need to highlight here the NAB League competitions. They are not falling under the government COVID restrictions or requirements. They're actually falling under the AFL vaccination policy, which means all the NAB League players and staff, etc., they need to be fully vaccinated as of the 30th of November, so a few days ago, which means any additional staff or personnel that are involved in these programs also need to be vaccinated. So if your academy umpires want to be involved in a NAB League training session or a practice match or an intra-club match, they must be double vaccinated before they can participate. What I'll be doing is, as I start to confirm everyone's list for next year, I'm also going to be asking all umpires to send in a screenshot of their certificate, their vaccination certificate, to me, so I've got a record of it. Any umpires who don't provide that certificate cannot participate in these talent carnivals. Even if it's middle of next year and it's a paid carnival position, they cannot participate because these players all have to abide by the AFL vaccination policy. Any questions online just on that important point?
That's something we should probably communicate earlier.
So it'll be something that I'll, as we start to roll this whole program out over the next couple of weeks, that'll be something that I'll be including. Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
The skill session. So like I mentioned, where I'm hoping to have 3 individual skill sessions, 1 for each discipline. So one day where it's all the field umpires, one day where it's all the boundary, one day where it's all the goal. If I can't get that ticked off by Yarra Council and the AFL, then we'll just revert back to this year's format of 2 academies at 1 location, sort of in the middle or nearby. Content will be very similar. Not much will change. The feedback that we're sort of getting, just in terms of the feedback I'm seeing from match day observations, is that these sorts of things that we've identified a couple of years ago are actually still the same things that we need these umpires to work on before they transition up to the VFL. So we'll keep the curriculum fairly the same, but again, the AFL umpires, they'll be free to run the skill drills that they feel are suited to these focuses. So the drills may not be the same, but the focus definitely will be. If we can get these sessions at Vic Park with everyone, we'll be doing some of the indoor coaching component as well. Otherwise, we'll try and we'll do that online component like some groups did this year. So that'll be the same for boundary and goal umpires. And the personal development program, so a couple of little changes. There's going to be 2 streams of the PDP program. The first stream is going to be the AFL capabilities, which is what the online sessions were for this year. So they were leadership, feedback, self-discipline. We ended up having a physical preparation one. And back after the year, we're hoping to try and get a resilience session in, but we'll have those capability sessions again for 2022. Now, off the back, so this whole sort of idea started with the Falcons a few years ago, where Mick Turner included the umpires in their sort of off-field development. I've spoken with the NAB League Wellbeing team, and they actually run the Wellbeing program a lot differently to a few years ago. So they've actually been really good in providing all their resources and their curriculum to me. So what we're going to trial, and this is something I'll put out there now, is with this Accelerator squad, they'll actually go through the Wellbeing program that the NAB League provides their players. The Wellbeing program is designed, to prepare these kids for the next level of AFL. So the premise is that this wellbeing program will prepare these umpires for the next step in the VFL. The wellbeing program, so a couple of things with that. So the curriculum will be based off what the NAB League are doing. They've offered to train up the 4 talent coordinators with their curriculum as well, so they can assist in that program. We'll have the umpires will have access to the content and the activities and whatnot, and then they'll also assist us in delivering that content to the Accelerator squad throughout the year. Their wellbeing program for the NAB girls has already started, but for the NAB boys it starts in late Feb, early March, which ties in really well with our timings of doing things in 2022. So that's something that we'll be trying to do a little bit differently in 2022. So for the AFL capabilities, so we'll look at these four online sessions. So a leadership session, a feedback session, a self-discipline session, and a personal resilience session. Based off some feedback, the feedback session was really well received by umpires and probably one of the top 2 topics from this year. So we'll probably go with a very similar session again. The self-discipline session, what we're going to do is a lot of feedback was they wanted to hear from VFL and State League umpires rather than AFL umpires all the time, because that's the next group of umpires that these people are going to actually be. So they want to hear more from those umpires who are actually living the next step now, who aren't full-time, none of the umpires are full-time, but they're not on the AFL squad. They're still doing the VFL commitments while working or studying as well. So a lot of the VFL State League umpires at uni, like a lot of the academy umpires, they want to hear from like-minded umpires. So we'll run a session using VFL umpires instead of AFL umpires. And then, so at the moment, I've just got to. Yep, sorry.
There you go. So you're going to tweak it up for those second and third year umpires, so they're not just sitting year 7 all the time?
Yep. So the leadership won't be the same goal setting, won't be the same presenter. The personal resilience will be completely new. The feedback will change. We will change that to make sure that it's not just repeating last year's. Last year's was very much what the State League coaches do, but once I know who the new State League coaches are, I'll work with them to run a different feedback session.
You don't know who that?
No, not all of them. No. Well, have to tell me later. I've got a brief schedule. So this is quite fluid at the moment. If there's a few dates that are locked in. So on the right-hand side, the PD session. So at the moment, those 4 AFL capability sessions are every 2nd month, starting from January, March, May, and July. And that's mainly designed so that firstly in April, when community seasons start, that's when it's busy. It's really busy, so we won't try and squeeze in a session then. And also community finals potentially start late August. So don't really want to put a session in August when that's when finals are starting to ramp up. And that's when, again, it's a busy time for everyone involved in this workshop today. So trying to avoid those 2 months by having this bi-monthly schedule. On the left-hand side, so the Under-17s Girls Championships, that's been confirmed from the 22nd to the 30th. Now that's on the two weekends of that period, so the 22nd, 23rd, and then the 29th and the 30th. Those games will most likely be curtain raisers to a NAB girls game. We've got the...
So do we need a group of people starting to train then?
Yes, it would be recommended that umpires in the academy start to do some training sessions. I've already sent around the Rob Jackson training program, which actually started, I think it was last week. So hopefully those umpires who were switched on have already accessed that and started to implement it. Had a crack? How'd you go?
I read it.
Read it. In April, so we've got 2 events on in April. So the first one is the V-Line Cup. So that's the 2021 V-Line Cup. And then we've also got the second, or across the first and the second week is the under-17 NAB Boys Championships. So with the 2021 V-Line Cup in April, that's not going to be for the umpires that were invited this year. That's going to be used as a bit of a development and coaching week for some of the younger academy umpires who could use with some extra coaching in a week. And then those more capable umpires in the academy, they'll be asked to do the under-17 Boys Championships, which don't have exact dates, but I know, like they were this year, most of them will be midweek, especially in Metro, and in regional they'll most likely be linked in with a NAB Boys match as a curtain raiser.
Challenging.
Yes, I did flag that, but unfortunately, one umpiring person versus all the regions doesn't win a vote.
Well, I suppose the local clubs are in the same situation with their players, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're going to lose them.
Yeah. And then the other dates I can confirm, or I'm not 100%, but I'm fairly certain the V-Line Cup for 2022 will be from the 19th to the 22nd of September. And there may potentially be under-16 trial games in September, but obviously we're a long way from that, so we'll have that confirmed middle of next year. Okay, so this Academy Accelerator squad. So at the moment, this is more just would love some feedback on this idea. Trying to mirror the same format of any sort of talent system at all three levels. So the terminology and the expectations become really consistent for umpires. That first half is just repeating why the academy system was sort of revamped a couple of years ago. So what I'm aiming for the Academy Accelerator squad to be a part of in 2022 is firstly attending VFL training sessions sporadically throughout 2022. The VFL's already ticked that off. They're more than happy to have academy umpires come to training throughout the year. Now, with the state league appointments being exclusively given to the academy umpires throughout the year and well in advance, I would like this accelerator group to be the group who are appointed to those games, because they're the ones who are sort of the next steps to be promoted, and they'll really benefit from umpiring with other state league umpires and umpiring those competitions, and then also getting the coaching through umpiring those competitions as well. Now, there's going to be...
Is that all three disciplines being involved?
Yes, all three disciplines. Now, I know that's not always going to be the case where there might be a game in a particular region where you won't have an accelerator squad umpire available, and that means you can use other academy umpires within your group to fill those appointments, but the accelerator squad would be the priority umpires to be appointed to those games throughout the year. And then last thing is they'll be involved in that tailored wellbeing program, which is aligned with the NAB League wellbeing program throughout the year. So here's, I guess, a summary. So semi-regular training at State League, priority appointments for the State League competitions. The VFL's flag that they want to try and run some sort of mentor program, so they could potentially be involved in that, where their umpires help out with just being a bit of a connection or a support person. Hopefully we did this a couple of years ago, doing an AFL or a VFL match day and coaching experience where we had academy umpires attend. I know we had a one here at Marvel. They attended a NAB League game on the day, and they had some coaching in the stands. So we'll try and bring those experiences to this group, the wellbeing program as well. The umpires part of this squad will most likely be the V-Line Cup umpires from this year who haven't been promoted. But the talent coordinators, myself, along with some consultation with all the umpire managers involved, will confirm all the umpires as part of that program. So here's that wellbeing program. So this is not confirmed. This is more a draft on what the NAB League have given me. So their wellbeing program has 6 building blocks, which is based on the PERMA theory of flourishing. So it's positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, accomplishment, and then the last one is just overall health. So the program curriculum that's underneath there is based on what the NAB League currently give. Now, I personally think there's maybe a couple that don't apply to our umpires, but that's just what their curriculum is this year. So they have a gratitude session, they have a kindness session, they have a personal strengths session, mindfulness. They have a growth mindset session, a goal setting session, a problematic drinking session, and a sleep and recovery session. I've also included a social media session as well, because that's something that I'm sure you're all hearing about throughout the year with social media issues and the clubs or umpires making comments online. So I think that would be a really important session to include for these umpires as well. So this is quite fluid at the moment, but that's sort of the basic curriculum that the NAB League have at the moment. Before we move on, so are there any queries or concerns with an Accelerator squad that's a little bit more exclusive to the V-Line Cup umpires? Anything that's planning to include in that squad? Any questions at all?
No, I'll comment adding an extra layer of high performance expectations and requirements is only an additional bonus to this. And glad to see my baby growing such a teenager.
It's getting there. It's almost mature.
Yeah, I'd second that too, Talbot. Extra layer, especially for our squad. Have a lot of those kids around 19 that they kind of need that extra level to help try push them. And then any new kids we get between the age of 15 and 18 that's more suited to the current setup's more suited to them. So yeah, just having that extra layer for those kids that are 18 to and up to 23 for other academies as well is pretty good.
Yeah, thanks, Buckets. Is there any umpire managers who concerned around about the state league priority appointments? I know this year that was an issue, and it was mainly because we'd find out on the Monday before that round, and the games were any day. I've already said that next year again needs to be priority on a Sunday, again to not interfere with community football, and also hopefully we'll know 2 to 3 weeks in advance the game, and we can just sort out the umpires in between that time. So
that's the key. We all do appointments. That's the key, is to get a longer leading.
Yep.
Sundays notice.
Yep. Awesome. All right. So last step. So for 2022, so what I'll be doing is next week I'll just going to send each of the academy contacts an email with their 2021 list, just confirming which changes, if there's any changes, and then also the chance to add any new umpires that people have identified towards the back end of the year. Again, next year we'll have some periods where I'll be asking just for if there's anyone that you flagged or identified during the season that's performed really well, you want to just include in the academy, we'll do that again. But again, I'll start asking for any new umpires now anyway. Try and get the confirmation of those details by 13th of December. So that way I can have this online induction pre-Christmas. And that way everyone can go into Christmas knowing what's happening for the girls' carnival to start in mid-January. Yeah, so that's what I'll be doing next week. I'll send all that information out to everyone.
No, just on the elevations for State League for this year.
Yep.
You sent out an email yesterday. Do you know how many numbers for each discipline are going to be elevated?
I've got a smaller gap. So originally I think I said it was anywhere between 4 and 12. So goal umpires is looking at it's potentially going to be 6 to 7. Boundary, not sure, around about 7 to 10, and field, it looks like there'll be 6 to 8 umpires promoted.
And in terms of, I guess, which academy they come from, obviously a lot of these umpires haven't been observed at Beeline Cup. They've had observations throughout the year, but I guess what is it that's determining one umpire elevated over another, given that they haven't sort of had a lot of observations?
Yeah, so hopefully what we had, so we had the observations, then I asked all the talent coordinators to contact each academy and ask for feedback, either from the head coach or from the umpire manager, whoever that person was. Through that process, the talent coordinators and myself, we sort of talked about where it sounded like each of the umpires were sitting. We gave each of the state league coaches a bigger list of up to 15 umpires in each discipline from around the state. And then from there, the state league coaches, my understanding was that they were going to ring or contact umpire managers or coaches from community levels to get feedback. I know a couple of the state league coaches also went back and watched more vision of umpires, and in some cases, the state league coaches actually contacted a few of the umpires themselves and spoke to them. Hopefully most of that, if not all of it, was done and followed through in a lot of the cases. I know for me personally, my role was to reach out to any regional umpires who were being considered. To be honest, not all of them got back to me. I know Oliver Kukovac, I never heard from him.
Yep.
I reached out to him. He was being considered. But yeah, so for regional umpires, I was actually reaching out to them individually to find out what they were doing next year to make sure their lifestyle was, going to be, well suited, or they were going to be able to manage as well.
So I think probably all of us have a couple of umpires that we think are sort of cherry ripe. I think we all know what that looks like in terms of the next step. And I just don't know. I mean, obviously I had a few conversations with Steve Petting, but I just don't know if those particular guns were sort of identified.
Look, this year is definitely not ideal because we were banking on that V-Line Cup to put all of them together and have, one from these three academies run together and then mix it up and, just all. That was the ideal, and unfortunately we just didn't have that. I tried to flag that we could try and do like a skills day throughout November, and I got told we weren't allowed to. The VFL wanted to just implement a trial process for 1 year next year. HR wouldn't allow that. So unfortunately, we've kind of had to make up this pseudo process. We've tried to include as much information giving and access as we possibly can. Hopefully the people involved have followed up with their conversations and phone calls with all the different people involved to make sure they have got that information. Unfortunately,
Wait and see who gets appointed, but yeah, I would be disappointed for someone who previously under the trial process would have got the opportunity to compete against others in Jan or Feb. Obviously with the best intentions wanting to implement the academy, but it unfortunately means that they can't be compared against other umpires. So I guess that's just one of the downsides.
No, I hear. I completely agree. Unfortunately, we just haven't
going to be this change of transition on how it's done, whether it's this year or next year or the year before. I mean, without COVID, we've already 2 years into this.
Agree. Yeah,
So
and I know
there's always going to be that first time where you're not going to be able to have what we were used to, and all the arguments thing. But the whole intention of this is to get that happening inside the program. So,
right. And I think the program is great. Don't get me wrong. I just would hate for someone to miss out.
But I think on that point, so actually, I was going to make a note on this slide this morning. I forgot to, but something I do want to encourage next year, and it's not a mandatory thing, but I'd love to encourage it, is that you actually connect with another academy and do an exchange with some of your academy umpires, and that way, that way, you as umpire managers can potentially see what other umpires are doing from other regions. The talent coordinators can do that. Our match day coaches can go out and watch, 2 and 1 umpire from 2 different academies, and they can, umpire together. So I would really like to encourage doing some exchanges throughout next year, whether you want to exchange with a neighbouring academy or you just want to reach out to someone across the state and give a bit of a day experience where they travel for a day, and you swap an umpire with another group.
Really looks like it 4 rounds.
Yeah.
Do it 4 times.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, all good. Any other questions before we move on from this? So I knew this would take the most time, and I've gone over my limit. So no, awesome. All right, we'll move on. So next year, umpire club visit. So after the last 2 years, one of the focuses from AFL Vic is getting AFL Vic personnel out to their stakeholders a lot more. So that means one of my focuses will be trying to get to every umpire club a lot sooner than what I was planning on this year. To try and help with trying to book in visiting everyone as soon as I possibly can, there's a bit of information I would like to collect from everyone. I'll send the link around for you to fill in over the summer, but basically the link has a few things. So firstly, contact details for 2022. Now, if your details have changed, please put your information in. Also, for metro groups, the CEOs have asked that your footy ops staff or person is also included in any correspondence I send out. So not all the CEOs have sent that information to me, even though they said that's what they wanted to happen. So if you can please send your footy ops staff contact in that form as well, that would be great, because then I can start including them with correspondence. Training venue info. I've got most of it, but it's a bit scattered. So if people can just confirm the training venue address, and then also the days and the time that you utilise those venues. I've hopefully made it really easy, but it's simply just the day, and you just click the time, or you click NA for that venue. So it should just be a click of a button, and then any coach contact info if known as well. I would really like to help with the coach accreditation stuff for next year as well. So any coach contact info, and I can hopefully try and get that ball rolling a lot earlier than what we did this year. And then once I receive that information from you all, I'll start to book in some trips around the state to come and visit. Hopefully I can also tie that in with meeting some of your broader league or rack staff as well. I haven't met many of the regional managers or the CEOs, so or the footy ops staff. So to actually get my face out there and be that person that they actually meet, rather than just being this person who probably complains more often than not when I'm contacting those people, would be a blessing. Officials HQ update. So launched December 1. So I sent all the regional umpire clubs and the YJFL an email on December 1. There are some bugs that are still being found out. Yep. So if it is an account issue with the user, you need to contact the customer support, which I'll show the image that I sent around yesterday. If it's an operational issue, please contact me. So some issue, I've got another slide, but one thing is that at the moment, all the admins can see all the financial data from NT, which is not a good thing. So that's something that needs to come to me. Whereas umpire who can't add their bank info because it's a weird account number, that needs to go to customer support, if that makes sense. The LMS will be launched in Jan 15. So originally it was being launched with Officials HQ, but the AFL is including a new child safe and player safety module for all umpires to complete, which is why it's been delayed. So it needs to be updated. So this is going to create a little bit of angst, but hopefully I've got a way to get around this. So all umpires in 2022 will have to complete the introductory modules because of the new modules on child safety and player safety. And that is purely the only reason why they have to complete that. Once they've done the introductory certificate, unfortunately, and I've spoken to the IT team, you can't actually skip the modules in the development and the accreditation course. So they will have to go through and just answer the questions for those courses if they're already accredited as development or advanced umpires. But what we're working on is we're producing a recognition of prior learning document that will go to all the umpire managers themselves. And then for umpires who already have a certain accreditation, the umpire manager can provide that RPL document to the umpires to upload into their LMS instead of doing the competency checklist. Hopefully that makes sense. So the recognition of prior learning can be done for already accredited umpires in lieu of the competency checklist. And that's how they can avoid doing all of their accreditation steps again.
Do they have that form in their profile? So they print it, they give it to us, we fill it in and they take it back?
So the checklist they print and they fill out. The recognition of prior learning form will come from the umpire manager, because I want the umpire manager to control that form, not that anyone can just download it and print it off. But through the comms, when I start communicating, sending that out, it'll be communicated that for anyone who needs to gain recognition of prior learning, to go to your umpire manager for that certificate. Because otherwise you could have every single umpire print that off and you'll have 500 people coming to you asking you to sign it, and then you've got to say yes, yes, no, no. Whereas if you just provide it to the people that you want to provide it to, then it controls that whole process, and it means that the umpires who don't get that do have to do their accreditation properly.
Bloody some of the 70-year-old goal umpires mind
that. So yeah, so I know a lot of umpires won't be happy that they'll have to start from scratch, but hopefully that process for year one means that it's not a burden to start from the scratch just for the first year. For umpire coaches, that because there's not that many, they can be transferred straight across. So the ones that already started this year in the new LMS, they're already, once they activate their Officials HQ account, their accreditation will be updated there. And for those who already had their accreditation as a coach, once the LMS is included and they've got their account, that'll be updated so that they're matching what they're already at.
What if they're using a different email?
I'll take that as a question, and I'll take that to Josh.
It's that email recognition.
Yeah. So I'll take that to Josh. Good question. Because I've got the names. So as long as I think we can match that, we can match the name, we might be able to do that.
No.
We'll know. So yes, that's accreditation for umpires and coaching. And then the decision-making platform will be released in early Feb in 2022. So it'll be a little bit staggered, unfortunately, for year one. But once it's all active, everyone will have access to it. So for the metro groups, I won't communicate any Officials HQ stuff until the LMS is launched, because that's all you're using. And then once that's up and running, communication for the decision-making platform will be the same for everyone, because it is going to be optional anyway for all the other umpire clubs.
Now, is the HQ being used all around the country except for in Metro Melbourne?
So this is the image that I sent around to the regional umpire clubs the other day. So when you do decide to promote registration with your umpires, please use this as your digital asset. It's got the contact number or the email address for customer support for anyone that has those account issues for umpires to contact. And so some of the known issues, so the preloaded admins, are struggling to edit their own personal information. So that we're working on being toggled. NC expenses are visible, so we need to get that turned off, and the test umpires are still visible as well. So we need to get those umpires.
And when I was trying to
Counts.
set up my panels yesterday, because I had the, we talked about doing the two.
Yeah.
And it doesn't allow that when you go in, it doesn't give you an option for type, for field, boundary, or it just, the field boundary is in everything. So I actually got a few umpires to register so I could start having a play with it.
Yeah.
And when you go in and I've set up Central Murray and Bendigo, and I'm trying to allocate the umpires to that panel, but I can't create, it doesn't give me an option to have a boundary or a field, a boundary or a goal umpire that's only a field. It just automatically comes up as a field every time. I don't know whether I need to be in the background somewhere else to set that up, but I got a couple of people in the office to have a look and they agreed with me that there was nowhere to do it.
All right. We'll look at that, because I know in the webinars, I'm pretty sure Tony did say you could.
Yeah, we couldn't find it yesterday. We sat
Yeah.
there for a couple of hours looking, and Tony's coming up next Friday. I'm writing down a list of questions for him, but
Yeah.
Obviously, Andrew, I spoke to you about, I'm having issues with changing mine from test to AFL live. I can't do my details, as you've already noted, but I can't see registrations either.
Yeah.
So whether it's just, I haven't got full admin access, I don't know.
I did get some coming through that I asked to sign up so I could start playing with it, but I've got no, there's no fixtures or anything in there yet, so about setting up pays and doing things that,
We'll do that, but yeah, I can't see it. So
Is there the option of us all getting together and having a classroom session, and, because we really need it?
Yeah. So good question. Now for officials HQ, Tony's going to start up the webinars again in Jan. So hopefully they'll be much better, because you'll actually have your live version to be able to play around with. And that was the issue last month, when you couldn't actually do anything with the dummy site. But yeah, in terms of the LMS and the decision-making tool, I'll be doing sessions on how to operate all that. That is very easy, I can guarantee, because I mean, that's what I've been using this year for coach accreditation. So I'll do sessions from that. If there's anything I'm seeing that Tony's not quite covering, I'll be more than happy to try and learn and help.
Interesting, when we had one of the sessions and he talked about putting our pays in, and I think I spoke, John might finish with me, like we have a couple of leagues where if we run 3 umpires, we can charge for 2.5. And it was just, I'm quite confused with how we set up the pay schedules. I'd really like it.
Yeah.
That's one thing I was going to chat to him about next week too.
it's also around.
He said you put in 2 umpires, and then if you want to put in the third, you put in a rate, but
Yeah, when a
that
league
didn't work.
umpire runs with the clubby, where the clubby
Yeah.
doesn't get paid, and the system, we just wouldn't appoint the clubby, we just appointed the system.
Yeah.
But if the clubby's got to go in, how does the system recognise that one's paid and one's not?
And I've got in, say, one league with the boundaries, where if we run 4 at around 9, I can charge for 3.5, and like there's all these different scenarios that are set up in our background that I'm
I
really.
think I could probably help there with that, because I've already said that's in you can set that up in your additional plans.
And
Yeah,
I haven't
I've
really.
already recognised that without doing it.
Yeah.
So.
It's just once, like the same, like you and I sat down and we did schedule one day, and I was right from there, but.
I think Sharon's on the money, because I think some of us are classroom learners and we just
Yeah.
take face-to-face hands-on learning.
So like if you go in,
Online,
yeah.
tick the box.
I'll show you, this is the one I was having issues with yesterday. Go into the officials management, right? You've got more than me.
Yeah, mine's a little bit different.
Oh, I'm sure. So then if you try and then put your umpire to a panel, it doesn't give you the option as to what discipline, and you can't actually physically go in and change. It gives you all the other bits there. You can in that the panel. Yep, go into the umpire panel. Go the one further down. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite panels. Yeah.
So then if you go and try and add a panel, right? So you've got field, so add a panel. there's nowhere in there to put the umpire type. So you see, it just automatically goes to field. So where do I change that to a goal or a boundary? So when I'm trying to add an umpire to that panel, there's nowhere for me to put a type.
Okay, I know in the webinar there was a spot where you selected the type of umpire.
I couldn't find it. I played around with it yesterday. Couldn't find it anyway. So I'm guessing it's in the background somewhere else.
Yep.
So then you actually, so if you get a boundary umpire and you're trying to attach him to your panel, there's no, you can't do it.
Yeah, so that function's now missing because it was in there when Tony was doing his webinar.
Yeah, so that was where I just went,
Yeah.
okay, I'll wait till today and we'll do some more training.
Okay, does anyone else have any issues that they've come across with Officials HQ that I can take back to follow up?
John Donegan. I put my registration form in and found 5 areas which I couldn't answer. I'm giving it to other members of the executive. That's going to be the big one of the big problems for us is just basically understanding some of the questions. The one that I completely got messed up was the one about the club attachment. I thought that was the umpires, but it's not. It's a football club. Inability to distinguish when you're filling in your form, field, boundary and goal. There doesn't seem to be anything there for administration. Difficulty with working with children and generally following the system. So we're going to have to work on that to try and demystify it for our members. We've been using Scheduler, but we had the same problem when we started in Scheduler, and we're going to have to do a bit of education of our members. Thanks.
Yep, thanks, John. I'll note a couple of those things.
So with some of the guys in Victoria that were planning going up to the NT, they've registered with the NT. It's reported they can't register with our group. So I know there's a few guys at the Shepherding, the Golden Murray as well that were all probably in that same boat too. So I don't know if there's a different process for them to do that.
Yeah, I'll have to follow that one up because I think initially, I remember in the webinar initially it was if umpires wanted to be part of multiple groups, they had to do a second registration. But then even me, when I tried to do a registration, I wasn't sure if I had to log in normally, but my email address was recognized straight away, so I couldn't register. So we'll follow up multiple umpire groups. Okay, we'll keep going. Again, if there's anything that comes out of Officials HQ, please let me know. If it's an account issue, please direct your umpires to customer support. It's 12:20, a little bit early, which is perfect because there's general discussion and questions. Is there anything anyone wants to bring up leading into next year or back into this year?
Couple.
Yep.
Might be right. I don't know. It's just affiliation templates for agreements. More discussion on points. What's happening with Ben? Not everyone will be aware of that is, of course, but there's a group talking about that, and we're sort of wanting to move it into Ghost Sense for next year. So see that will then connect into HQ and have so yeah, probably the affiliation template agreements.
Yeah, so affiliation, John O'Donoghue is managing all that now. There is apparently a new template that's been developed by the legal team. I've been instructed that if there's any umpire clubs who need to update their affiliation, to contact or for me to let John know. So I'll let him know again that you're looking at.
He's got mine anyway.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's gone quiet for about a month.
Yep. Okay. So I'll follow that up. Is there any other groups that need to update their affiliation? Excellent. Next one was ePoints.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I sent the framework off to all the RMs as requested and the COs, and they were instructed if they wanted help implementing to reach out to me, and not a single person has come back.
Our new RGM may not be ready for that yet, but
Yeah.
the commission is
Okay.
in our area. So
It's literally up to each league and commission to implement the ePoints. So if if Barwon want to implement the ePoints, like, go for it. I'm more than happy to sit down with you and help get the forms set up on a HQ and whatnot. But otherwise,
we certainly want to pilot it and put it in the background rather than it live.
Yep.
But from the umpire's point of view, it will be live in that sense. So
Yep.
they get used to filling it out as part of the compulsory part of the online versions.
Yep.
And then we want to feed that back to the clubs. This is how it's impacting your club, but also identifies the stuff straight away to work with the club with, so it doesn't impact them as much as the following year, if at all.
Mhm.
So, commission's pretty keen to get me presenting to them on that. Been waiting for a few months. So,
Did I send you the framework?
I think you have, but you can update with me all that.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'll just work. I don't think there's anyone. Is there anyone else that's actually their league or commission's looking at doing ePoints this year?
Not exactly.
Not exactly.
I'm investigating it.
Yeah.
We had some junior football and stuff, so I've got some support from CEO and the operations to run it without any of the umpires or clubs knowing. So just investigating behind the scenes what that would look like in our league, in case we need to have a solution in the future.
Okay.
So
yeah, I'm happy to run through the stuff that I've developed, because so all the COs and RMs sat in a meeting with the WA Football Commission, because they just went through how their ePoint system works. I've just basically copied it. I've made a few little rule changes based on how our competitions are sort of run. It's a little bit different. They have their competitions are based on school year level, not age group. So I made a few changes, but I'm happy to help setting up like some sort of points and whatnot, parameters.
I think you shouldn't have to wait for problems to be there. There could be preempting some stuff down the track. It could be 5 years' time, whatever, but if you get the system in and ready and running, actually might identify some stuff that you know about as well. So by using it as a pilot or putting it in the background where it's not live, but you're getting that direct feedback from the umpires.
Yeah.
Which is more relevant to a comment than not a mention, because they really put.
I think one of the discussion points from that WA session was a lot of the RMs and COs wanted to see the potential of how it would impact a team who's on the fringe of finals or who was on the fringe of missing finals. So if you're doing a pilot behind the scenes, or you're just sort of piloting and trying it, how it works from an umpire's perspective, not tracking it, but if we can get that data, track it to show how it influences club results, that might make it a bit easier to set up more broadly following years. So
that's the thing for us as well. Like CEO for the operation, we'd be able to get the support of the league, of the clubs, which we'd need to bring it in. But if we can actually have some data to take back and say, this is how it affected your team, I think that's going to be something that's a lot more powerful than just saying, this is what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Was that it? Just 8 points? Yeah. No, I'll happy to work with both of you about setting it up, working through how it could work and who tracks it, whatnot. Easy. Anything else from anyone else? Questions, queries? Oh, excellent. Well, we're now finished 4 minutes earlier than I anticipated. So thank you all very much for your time. I think most of you still probably got a couple of weeks left before we all knock off for Christmas. So if I don't speak to you between now and Christmas, enjoy your summer break. Just FYI for everyone, so I'm actually on leave from the 24th of December through to the 22nd of Jan. Hopefully that's nice and quiet for everyone online anyway. I'll be touching base a little bit because obviously we've got the 17 girls championships on, so I'll still be checking things, but I won't be online too often to assist with anything. But thanks very much for your time. Enjoy your summer break, and I'll look forward to working with you all 2022 again.
Thanks, Dalbo.
Thanks, Dalbo. See you all.
Actually,